Okay. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to another social emotional workshop where today we will be discussing self-care, you know, making sure that we're all right. So Joe, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. And Tony and I were just talking that sometimes, we work on our days off, we work on the weekend, kind of for ourselves, just so we are more prepared for the next week coming up, because we don't want the week to come up and then us still being on that treadmill. So we were just talking that sometimes we do extra work on our own. And I bet a lot of educators do the same thing. So we'll see how helpful that is. And if we need to modify that at all, like I don't mind doing that. I don't mind putting a little extra time of my own time so I can balance and feel comfortable going into the project, for the next week. So again, my name is Joe Galino from CARE of Southeastern Michigan. I am a community health educator. I have a bachelor's in science and counseling psychology, and I am a certified prevention specialist, which I do a lot of drug prevention. And I have two colleagues with me. Caitlin is always joining in. Caitlin is our director, our prevention director. Hi, Caitlin. And we have Macy, who is an intern at CARE, Macy Clements. Okay, so let's get into self-care and growth mindset. Well, our objectives, I'm not going to go too much into self-care, as in we did that like a few weeks or several weeks ago. We did a whole self-care with journaling and mindfulness and, breathing and meditation. I'm not going too much into that, but we will talk about what self-care is and what it's not. We're going to talk about filling our needs. How do we get our needs met? And if we don't get our needs met, some of the negative outcomes that could happen from not getting our needs met. And then about being authentic, asking that question, are you fine? Yeah, we're all fine. But is that really true? I mean, are you being authentic? And then a growth mindset. Some of Carol Dweck is a psychologist, and she talks about that growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And then I just went to a webinar. It was on this book called Thriving. It's about resiliency. And she talked about the 7 characters of strength. And we'll get into that, just a little introduction into that. So first, what is self-care? And that's that independent and active choice to make those decisions on maintaining that optimal level of health and well-being. So what I opened up with is like, I worked this weekend, kind of. So on my downtime, I'll open up a PowerPoint, I'll make sure it's all set, I got to find the perfect picture and put a lot into it. So I'm making an independent active choice to make my next week more flowing, more fluent, more confident. But is that taking away from my self-care? Is that taking away from other things that I need to be effective in the following week? So it's this dichotomy. Do I put the extra effort in on my own time so I can be more balanced and confident in the next week? Or should I take care of myself? That way I'll be more healthy and balanced for the next week. So it's a tough spot. I mean, I'm not the best one to do self-care because I do neglect myself much of the time. I'm more focused on doing the work and focusing and getting the things done. And sometimes I do neglect myself. So it's a way of living. It's not an occasional act. So this self-care is a lifestyle. It's not occasional act, which would be self-soothing. So if I was stressed out, and I would eat a bag of chocolates, oh, that feels good, right? Is that self-care? No, you're just soothing some of your stresses. Or if I'm going to go get a what do they call it? Pedicure, manicure. I'm going to go get a facial. Is that self-care? No, that's self-soothing. That's the things it's one time you're going to do something that makes you feel better and reduce that stress. Now that self-soothing isn't bad, so to speak, but it's not a way of living. It's not filling some of the needs that you need to have that optimal level of health. And it needs to be a priority. So just like I'm telling you about my weekend of work to be balanced for the next week, rather than my health and enough sleep and healthy eating to be balanced for the next week. So we do need to take care of ourselves as a priority. Just like that old saying about the airplane, when the oxygen masks fall from the ceiling, that we put it on ourselves first, because we're fumbling around trying to save our kids, even our kids, trying to save our kids, and we pass out, then who's going to save our kids if we're not there? So we do need to put that oxygen mask on ourselves first, and then we'll be healthy enough to save our kids and others in our vicinity. I love this picture here. Look at that bookstore here. The fixing others is packed. Everybody's trying to fix others. And then the self-help, we got that lonely guy trying to, get some self-improvement going on. So what it's not. So self-care is not selfish or indulgent. So we don't think that if we're taking care of myself, I'm neglecting my other duties. I'm neglecting my parenting. I'm neglecting others. No, it's not a selfish thing. We need to take care of ourselves. That way we'll be healthy to take care of others. It's not about ignoring the needs of others, because other people in our lives, especially the ones that we care for, they need us. So, but they don't need us 24/7. They don't need us on every beck and call that they need. We can't just run to them and fix their needs. We got to make sure that we are first, and then we could, be healthy enough to deal with their needs. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be actually free, some of the things that we do for self-care. So it doesn't have to be joining any groups or buying a new massage table or anything like that. It's just, some of the stuff is just totally free in our lifestyle changes. And like I said, it's not that reward system. That would be that self-soothing. So we all need self-care. Some of us may not do self-care. And why wouldn't somebody maybe take care of themselves, take some time for themselves? What are some barriers that they might have in their lives? The one is the parent. If you are a parent of children, you can't fill from an empty cup. I mean, sure, it is our duty. It is our role as parents, our nurturing selves. But once we start getting reactive with our kids, you're like, I don't have time to take care of myself because I have 4 kids. I got schooling, we got this online learning, so parenting might be an excuse for not taking care of yourself. Or it might be guilt. So you might feel guilty that you don't deserve time. You don't deserve just ignoring the kids, going in your bedroom or in an office and just chilling for a little bit, listening to music, meditating, focusing, whatever you need to do. That might feel guilty. Or the excuses. It's just one more thing that I don't have time for. And self-care doesn't need to be that much time. You don't need to meditate for an hour, to go on an hour walk. Self-care could just be 5 minutes here and there throughout the day. Or the next one, not knowing yourself, fear of intimacy with self. So if I did start self-reflecting and wondering what my needs are, what I might find, what will I find inside when everything's quiet? Some people need things in their life. They need the distractions. They need to be overwhelmed. They need to be on that treadmill, because when things stop, when things slow down, Where does my mind go? What am I going to find out about myself? So sometimes it's just fear of, I don't know what will happen if I didn't have my duty of being responsible for everybody else and being perfect at my job. One size fits all. Your version of self-care might look really different than what others might say. So we all are going to have a self-care routine, or what we need to take care of ourselves might be something somebody else doesn't even think about doing for themselves, but it fits ourselves and our thoughts. Or that superhero mentality. That is the thing that I said, that you're the superhero. You fix everybody. You do everything. You're responsible. And you have that superhero mentality that you don't have time for yourself because you're getting your needs by fixing everybody else or helping everybody else. And you might kind of self-reflect. Do you see some of your barriers on here? Or maybe you have other barriers that aren't being mentioned here on this slide. And you can kind of self-reflect those on your own. Unless, of course, you want to share them. So when wellness is high, we have a better access to all of these wonderful things on the screen. We're going to be better able to solve problems, make decisions, choose healthy coping skills. We're just going to be a little bit more balanced and not reactive. We're going to be a little bit more assertive in our communication. Because if I was up to here with stress and things and work and kids and duties, and then somebody is bothering me or I'm getting annoyed by somebody. Remember those 4 things of communication? The aggressive or passive aggressive. If we're not healthy and balanced in our lives, one child could say, "Mommy, mommy," and you're like, "What do you want?" And you kind of react because you just had it. But if we were balanced, we would have a little bit more assertive communication. We would have, okay, I feel really annoyed right now because you keep on trying to get my attention while I'm working on my work. What's going on? And we could be a little bit more assertive with our communication. But if I was stressed, I am going to be reactive. And then when we are balanced, we have that homeostasis, that whole balance of our life. Feeling rested, having energy. And the picture on the screen, the size of my problem to the size of my reaction. Now you would have to kind of assess to see if they match. But I had a friend call me last week. She works in a restaurant, and she pinched her in between her thumb and her index finger, in between something. And it started to bleed. So she calls me up and she's like, "I'm bleeding. Oh my God, I pinched myself and I'm bleeding." And her reaction, yes, it hurt. It was an injury, but her reaction from that anxiety that she has taken on was way bigger than the size of the problem. When your reaction is bigger than the size of the problem, then you know something's out of balance. And we'll talk about the things that we need to get in balance. Maybe there's a problem with parenting, and the parent gets really escalated trying to fix this problem, when the problem is kind of small and you should deal with it with effective tools. But if we're not balanced, we're going to deal with it with reactions and angers and frustrations and such. So think about, have you ever had a small problem and a big reaction? And you would have to say, when that happens, what's going on in your life? What's going on in your mind, in your surroundings, in your environment? And when we're having small problems and big reactions, we need something in our lives, which are these wellness circles. Now, these wellness circles, there's 6 here. I guess you can come up with a couple other ones like financial and such, but these are the standard 6 wellness circles. We need to be psychologically balanced. That means understand our thoughts and not have our thoughts be overreacting from a small problem. That would be my psychology is out of balance because I might have some depressions or anxieties or ruminating thoughts going on. When I talk to the youth, I call them ants. You have ants in your brain. That's ANTS, automatic negative thoughts. And when the ants are crawling through your brain, that means your psychology is a little out of balance. We need to kind of refocus. We need to reassess what's going on. And we need to get our psychology in order, in balance. Spiritual, we need to be connected. And I'll have a little bit on each of these. So I'm just going to summarize them right now. And we need to take care of our physical, social, vocational environment. Now, when all of these wellness circles are filled, then we have this outcome here with wonderful problem-solving, decision-making, reactions, and such. But when some of these wellness circles aren't tended to, then some of these outcomes. So if you read some of the outcomes in each one of those circles to see if any of these has happened or is happening to you or loved ones. And here's that psychology. When our psychology is out of order, sadness, depression, arguments, worries. How about the spiritual? If we don't have a spiritual part of our needs filled, and that spiritual could be anything. It could be going to church. So it could be a Christian or Catholicism. So it could be a faith-based following, or it could be just being connected to the sun, the wind, the stars, Mother Nature, that there is some type of higher power than you. Because if there is no spirituality, look at some of the outcomes. Guilt, apathy, loss of direction and purpose. I know a lot of atheists, but even the atheists that I know, they have some type of philosophy that they seem to kind of see a balance in life. Otherwise, it's just chaos. And if you feel that this world is chaos, there's no order, this world is designed against you, there's no order, it's all chaos. Well, then some of these things of the negative might pop in, that not caring, loss of direction. And of course, the physical, if we don't take care of our physical bodies, you can see some of those outcomes there. Social, I'm an introvert and I don't have a big social life. I have a couple close friends. Although when I do some wellness trainings, I hear people say, I'd rather be alone. I want to move up north into a cabin and just live off the grid. And I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody. But we're humanistic beings. We need sociability. We need connection with somebody, with some things. So if you did live off the grid and moved up north, yeah, you might be all right for a week, a month, maybe even a year. But sooner or later, that social connection that's not being filled is going to start eating you from the inside. Maybe start with our psychology and isolation, loneliness. Vocational, so if some of our workplace, we're losing the value in the things we do, job burnout, compassion fatigue, we don't have a balance in our work, then we have dissatisfied work lives, some exclusion, and from our workmates, or just overwhelmed. And if we're overwhelmed at work, we're going to start working on the weekend, right? Working on the weekend, getting things in order because I'm overwhelmed and something's out of balance. And then the environmental, that is our surroundings. We might have a negative culture in our workplace, a lack of understanding and support, or you might start isolating. All right, so whenever we're feeling unhealthy, we should look at these 6 circles to see, what's missing. So out of these 6 circles, I'm going to kind of go through them one by one to see how we could fill some of these circles. So the psychological circle, this is just, monitoring those emotions, reflecting what's going on. Is this real? Do I have all the facts? Thinking about what's going on in your head, expressing your emotions in a really constructive way. So if you're blowing up at people, if you're using passive aggressive or aggressive communication, something in your brain, something in your mind isn't processing things in the healthiest way. So we're reactive. So we really need to kind of set those boundaries, let go of some of the things we can't control, consider getting some help, either self-help by reading some self-improvement books or by seeing a counselor. So look at that psychological circle, that bubble, to see what can you do to help that psychology balance or to fill part of that circle. The spiritual circle. This is focusing on reminding yourself daily that the meaning of your life, what is the purpose? Everybody has a purpose. Now, I teach youth. I used to go into schools, into elementary schools and middle schools, and I teach self-esteem, self-worth. And I say, everybody has a gift. Everybody's good at something. And then I see some of the shy children, they put their heads down. They're like, and I can see they don't want me to call on them because I say, what are you good at? What are you good at? What are you good at? And everybody's all sports and games and painting and singing. And I see the children that just have their heads down. They don't want me to call on them. So I'll bring that up. I won't point them out and put them on the spot, but I will say some people think that they're not good at anything, that they don't have a gift. But we all have a gift inside of us. Wayne Dyer is a spiritual leader that I listen to. He passed away a couple summers ago, I think. Well, he says, don't die with your gift still inside of you. With your song, that's what it was. Don't die with your song still inside of you. We all have a song. And when we find that song, we need to give it away. And that's where we get that spiritual connection, like I'm here for a reason. I have a purpose. So I say to those children, I said, some kids, they might be good at smiling. And then they kind of smile. Yeah, I'm good at smiling. Yeah, when you smile, you light up a room. Some might be good at being a friend. So we all have a gift. And when you don't know what your gift is, that's when you have to slow down, look inside to say, what is my purpose here? Why am I here on this earth? And finding that purpose. And spirituality could be that meditation, journaling, any type of connection that you can have for that with that higher power. Physical, this one, kind of like the common sense, right? We just need to take care of our bodies. We need to drink. We need good sleep hygiene. We need to exercise. We need to take a break when we're exhausted or we're staring at the computer for too long. We need to avoid or minimize our alcohol and caffeine. We need to see a doctor. We need to get checkups, self-exams. We need to use medication properly and not use your wife's or your husband's medication or a friend's medication, not go to a doctor and take, if you have a cold or something, you start taking antibiotics that weren't prescribed by a doctor, you didn't get an assessment. So we really need to take care of our physical bodies, or else aches and pains and illnesses. Now the social part, this is where some of the introverts or something that might say, I'm not that sociable. So we need satisfying relationships. people that we can trust in our life. Because if we don't, we're going to feel some of that isolation, some of that loneliness. We need to recharge by planning fun activities with family and friends. We need to maybe volunteer. Maybe if you don't have that social life, do things for your community. Volunteer. Volunteer. I think, who was it? Somebody just had the parks that you can volunteer and go clean up the parks here in the coming spring. How cool would that be? Having a big old group of people walk through the parks and start picking up trash and things like that. And it was picking up cigarette butts and stuff in our parks for smoke-free parks and such. Or volunteering at homeless shelters and such. And just being present with your friends, nurturing some of those friendships. And when you're with your friends, and this I see on the internet all the time with videos, that when you're out to dinner, when you're with your friends, are you with your friends, or is everybody like on their phones kind of checking, texting and stuff when you're with the friends you have? And everybody's, yeah, you're with your friends, but are you really present? Vocational. This is appreciating the meaning and purpose you have at your job. Showing appreciation for others, other strengths and contributions at your job, appreciating others' contributions, you giving your all at your job, or at least giving that honest 8 hours of work. And if you are overwhelmed at your job, if you're just there for a paycheck, I worked in the restaurant business after a while. It was just punch in, do your work, punch out, and everybody was kind of overwhelmed and frustrated. And if that is kind of creating ants in your brain, if it's hurting your psychology, remember that psychology circle or that social circle, then you have to really look at it to say, is this position continuing to inspire me? Am I still getting something out of this job? Because if we have like compassion fatigue and we're like, we don't see the fruits of our labor, we're always dealing with pain and suffering and behavior and stuff. And if that's not filling your vocational needs, then we really need to assess that to say, either look for a new job or career, or maybe regroup and find out how can you get inspired again. Because we do need work to value what we do. I don't care if you're a ditch digger, digging ditches outside. That's my dad used to always say, you're going to be a ditch digger. But if you are a ditch digger, then be a valuable ditch digger. You're the best ditch digger, and you are the one who digs ditches. And without you, who's going to dig the ditch? To lay the pipes, to lay the wires. So it doesn't matter if you're a custodian, a ditch digger, a teacher, whoever you are, that you need to find that value and why you are doing what you're doing. Because if you're doing it just for a paycheck, that's going to kind of start wearing you down and feeling like, hey, I'm just punching in and it's meaningless. So we need to find that meaning in that vocation. And I think that vocational will also be to, the financial. If we added a circle of financial, because we need to be financially stable too. Because if we're not financially able to meet our needs, then that's going to be a problem also. So getting a job, having value in the job, and hopefully that it will pay your bills. When I was totally burned out in the restaurant business, I went to my happy place, and my happy place was that this place pays my mortgage and feeds my children. As miserable as it was when I was working at this country club, that was what I was there. They pay my mortgage and they feed my family. So I punch in and I do my job with a smile because they're paying my mortgage and feeding my family. And I had to, and I was going to school to change careers because it wasn't doing it for me anymore. And the last one of those 6 circles is the environment. your surroundings. So what do you need in your surroundings? Do you need to be energized? Do you need bright surroundings to energize you? I mean, what is your surroundings? Do you need a quiet, sedative kind of surroundings? So our environment is going to um, add to our wellness. So if we have an unorganized environment, a cluttered environment, I don't mind a cluttered environment, but unconsciously, it's going to be weighing on my frustration level. So if our environment is out of order, our brain, our psychology is a little out of order. I don't know if I told the story in a past training that when I was going to school, part-time, working full-time, I'm a bachelor, and sometimes my sink gets filled with dishes and pots and pans, and my laundry gets piled up, and I'm overwhelmed working full-time, going to school part-time, and I don't mind some of those undone household chores, although it adds to the stress level. Because if I come home and I see that sink full of dishes, see the laundry pile, and I'm not going to be focused studying as focused as I would be. And I remember this story here that one time a girlfriend came over, she did my dishes and washed some clothes. And I came home from work and saw that clean kitchen. And it was just like a relief off of my shoulders. I was like, wow, what a change of a organized environment did for my mind. And I had an unfocused, wonderful, totally focused study hour. It was just amazing. So our environment needs to be organized. We need to clean it up, declutter, and being involved in the environment as recycling. Now I have a family member that doesn't really care too much about the environment. And me, I'm really focused on not wasting natural resources. I'm really focused on recycling the correct way. Like I see some of my neighbors, they have crumbled up pieces of paper and paper towels in their recycling bin. Styrofoam. I don't know if styrofoam is recyclable, but they got styrofoam packed in their recycled bin. And I'm looking outside, and I always watch when the recycle guy comes and he dumps, and I can see all the trash in the recycle bin, and it really frustrates me. Now, I'm going to mind my own business, although I get satisfaction out of taking care of my environment. So I want to reserve water, natural resources. I want to recycle healthy and correct, because it does good for my self-worth and my wellness circles. All right, so that's all of the self-care. And you would have to kind of go through those 6 circles to say what, if you're out of balance, what can you do? What circle needs to be filled? Now, you don't have to concentrate on all of them. You don't have to fill all of them up. Pick 1, 2, or 3 and tend to them, and you will kind of see some changes in your balance. All right, so now we're going to get to that that growth mindset. Is the past getting in the way of the future? So do you have any of those emotional attachments from your childhood, maybe from past relationships, past grievances? Is your past getting in the way of your future? Now, sometimes we have so much trauma or just negative relationships from our past that kind of affects our future. So you really have to tell the truth. And to be excellent, we need to be authentic, our authentic selves. There's this saying that says, to know the devil's inside. If you know the devil's inside, the devil's outside can't hurt you. And that really helps me a lot, because if I had some things inside that I that I wasn't comfortable with, then when somebody calls me out on them, I'm going to defend myself. If they said that I'm lazy, I'm going to get upset and I'm going to defend. I am not lazy. I work hard. I got a lot going on, and you have no idea what my life is about. Instead of saying, well, maybe I'm a little lazy. Maybe I don't keep the best house and I should tend a little bit more time. If I know I'm lazy, I better own that. So if somebody calls it out, I'm not going to explode or defend it. Or if you're always late and somebody says you're always late, of course, that's an overgeneralization that creates a fight. But if you're always late, say, you know what? I am late. I'm really never on time. And I need to work on that, or I don't care. But to be authentic and tell the truth is going to help you balance your life. Because if you have things in your life that you don't kind of self-assess and realize and own, then when somebody calls you out on them, you're going to be defensive. You're going to find their faults and you're going to throw their faults in their face, and you're going to now point out each other's deficits instead of owning it and saying, you know what, that's a good point. I should think about, finding ways to be on time more often. And also be authentic in answering this question. Are you fine? So I'll ask you guys, are you fine? Yes, no, everybody's fine. But to be honest, you might not have to disclose it to them. Are you fine? Because, you might not have that kind of relationship with them. Although, if you're not fine, then we really need to be authentic to say, why aren't I fine? And how can I get fine? Which one of those wellness circles am I lagging where I can start filling up to be fine? And that brings us to the courage to be imperfect. So if you have the courage to be imperfect, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for somebody to call you out on something. Because if you think that perfection is the only way you can be good or fit in, then that's going to be a lot of stress. That's going to bring a lot of pain until you could understand that, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. If I make a mistake, it's part of learning. And I like this quote here. Oops. I never lose. And I always like telling the kids that I'd never lose. They're like, what, Mr. Joe, you never lose? Nope, I never lose. I either win or I learn. And they go, oh, interesting. So we need to work on being helpful, not better than others. That whole arrogance thing, that this whole world, we have to be better than others. It's all about winning and being better and one-upping. You tell a story, I got to one-up your story, and then somebody has to one-up that story. And I always have to be like the top of the mountain. If anybody played that game when we were kids, the King of the Mountain. So you stand on the top of the mountain, then everybody tries to knock you off. And you got to maintain that. Do your best. Take the next good step. If you failed, then you just have to look at it as, all right, what can I do better next time? And to model this for our youth is incredible. To model the courage to be imperfect, you would kind of help that child or that youth feel a little bit better about mistakes, about not being the best at something. Make small changes. So all this self-help kind of thing I'm talking about here, I mean, it might take years to get that psychology balanced or to get your environment in order, whatever it is. So don't think it is a quick change. It's a small little changes. They say if you want to change your world, you have to change your day. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Everybody wants the outcome, but I'm not going to do the hard work to get there. So we need to kind of focus on ourselves, value our strengths. And I like the last one. See things as a challenge to be met, not a problem to overcome. Now, these are some coping skills when we are stressed out and facing challenges and problems. Look at some of these negative coping skills that I kind of didn't realize they were negative. People pleasing on the bottom here. Self-harm. There's all that denial, blame, and shame. When we do these things, we feel better. Sometimes we're even self-soothing. Remember, I talked about self-soothing. Sometimes I can blow up all over everybody, and it makes me feel better. Look at our youth. Maybe our youth might misbehave because it makes them feel powerful or in control, or they get attention from misbehaving. So a lot of these negative coping skills we kind of learned through our lives, maybe through our childhoods. And we really need to learn some positive coping skills. And if we don't have them, if we didn't learn them through our modeling or our role models growing up, then we need to get healthier role models, but get them in books or just have adults model these positive coping skills for our youth. And next week, we're going to talk about the goals and plans. But if we're not taught the positive role models, then how? What's the easiest way to cope is some of the negative coping skills. So we have to understand that just because somebody is using those negatives, it doesn't mean they want to. It's the only tools they have to cope with what they're going through. So this, I want to play this video. Let me make sure my speakers are on. Share sound. This is a 5-minute video, so sit back and enjoy the show. This guy's name is Adam Roa. And put your thumb up, Tony, if you can hear this. Hold on. All right, hold on. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Adam Roa, everybody. Give him a round of applause. So good to see you, man. Yeah. So good to see you. I learned something that was really impactful for me, which is that your capacity to love others is limited only by your capacity to love yourself. And that's what inspired this piece of poetry, which I call, "You Are Who You've Been Looking For." Yeah. You are who you've been looking for. So stop looking for more unless you're looking in a mirror, because it's about time for you to see clearly that you are who you've been looking for. And that empty feeling you got, that hole in your chest, you only got that feeling because you think you're not blessed with everything you need. You see, we live in a consumerist society, which means they need you to buy stuff. And the easiest way to sell it is to tell you you're not enough. Buy this car, you'll get girls. Buy this bra, you'll get guys. And we're seeing it so much that we start believing these lies, but the truth is, the makeup they're selling to make you feel prettier is the same makeup you buy to stop feeling shittier about this lie they keep telling you that you are not enough. And what about the movies we watch, all the shows on TV? The more I watch, the more I see I need you to complete me. And yes, love is the answer, love is the key, but if you can't love yourself, how could you ever love me? And loving yourself, what does that even mean? Like massages and selfies and that sort of thing? Because the more I think about it, the more it feels weird. I've always been taught that self-love was something to be feared. I've been taught that arrogance is bad and vanity, it's not good. And even my bracelets are telling me to act how Jesus would. So what should I do? How should I act? I'm supposed to love myself, but how do I even do that? Well, I got a trick that I picked up from a friend who noticed that I was quick to defend her when she would say something negative about herself. She would say, I'm so dumb, and I'd say, you're so brilliant. She'd say, I'm so weak, and I'd say, you're so resilient. And when she said, I feel ugly, and I said, you look beautiful, she asked me why I was so dutifully filling up her cup constantly and yet treating my own cup so irresponsibly. Because when I looked in the mirror, my voice was quite clear. You're ugly, you're too thin, your hairline's receding, you got a pimple on your chin. And that was when she gave me a piece of advice that changed my life. She gave me a hug, and she said, treat yourself like someone you loved. Treat yourself like someone you loved. Now, I had been standing, but I needed to be sitting because I couldn't believe that I had been letting myself keep forgetting that I was who I'd been looking for. And deep in my core, I knew it was time to stop looking for more until I could look through all my fear and look into a mirror and see clearly that the man looking back at me was the only one who can make me happy, and I am already enough. And I am not any more special or unique than you. That is why I'm here to speak to you. You are already enough. And when you start to see that, you will start to be that. Your world will get brighter, your load will get lighter, and you can see that with life, you can be a lover, not a fighter. And that life, you deserve it. Because you are worth it. And there is no point in letting yourself keep forgetting, because no matter what you say or do, you are perfect. And so today, I hope I leave you with a direction correction away from the flaws you see in your reflection. They aren't flaws to me, they are simply protection against all the doubts you have of your perfection. So start today. Take a good, long look in the mirror and say, I am who I've been looking for.
All right, you enjoy that?
That was awesome. You got to send me the link to that.
Yes, I will. Yeah, feel good. Oh, it's just like, treat yourself like someone you love. And that's all that self-care. Love yourself. And if you're not treating yourself like someone you loved, what's missing? So then we have to look into those wellness circles, right? Do I need my psychological wellness circle? Do I need my vocational, my social, my physical, my spiritual, my environmental? We need to fill those up so we'll be balanced. So, solutions. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just I stay with problems longer. And this is leading to the growth mindset. So I know I can't see anybody's picture here. So I want you just to go through and do what I say and be honest about it. So I want you to raise your hand as high as you can right now, whether I can see you or not. All right, now raise it a little bit higher. All right, you can put your hands down. Now, I only saw 3 people's screens, but when I say raise your hand as high as you can, everybody did. But when I asked you to go a little bit higher, I saw all 3 of you go a little bit higher. Is that true? Did you go higher when I say go higher? Mm-hmm. So if I said raise your hand as high as you can, how come you didn't go as high as you can? So in our minds, that we all have this effort that we think we're giving it all that we can. But still, something inside, you still have a little booster kicker that you can kick in. That when we think we're giving it all that we can still go a little further. And you 3 just proved it to me on screen when I saw you go higher. So that brings us to Carol Dweck and her research on the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. The fixed mindset, you can see the categories of skills and challenges that it's something you're born with. You tend to give up easily because either you have it or you don't. So why should I try harder? I'm just not good at sports. I'm not fast. I'm not smart at math. The effort in a fixed mindset is something you do when you're not good enough. So the effort is just like, hey, raise your hand as high as you can. Well, that's my effort, and I can't go any higher. But if you had that little afterburner that you can grow, you can go a little higher. I said, somebody who can't do a push-up, they say, oh, no, I can't do push-ups. Well, can you do one? Do one push-up. And they do one push-up. I said, all right, now take a break. About 5 minutes. You think you can do 2 push-ups? And we can grow from there. But that's a growth mindset. Fixed mindset and the feedback, they'll get defensive. They'll take it personal, defend themselves, blame others when they fail. So now it's like, it's not my fault. It's rigged. Everything's rigged. I did win, but it's rigged. And I lost. No, I didn't lose because I can't lose. So it's just that whole circular talk. But the growth mindset, the skills comes from hard work. You're not born with it. It's not if you're smart or not, if you're strong or not. We can get stronger. We can get smarter. Challenges that we're going to be more persistent. Opportunities to grow. Telling the child that your brain is like a muscle. If you start doing multiplication or addition, that you can grow to do multiplication, and then you can do algebra, and then you can do trigonometry. But if we look at trigonometry right away, you're like, oh no, trigonometry is hard. I'm bad at math. No, you're not. First, we have to learn the numbers, and then we have to learn addition and subtraction. We can grow. The effort, this is in a growth mindset. It's a path to mastery. So the more effort, the stronger and smarter I can get. And are many of you familiar with Carol Dweck's study?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple yes, a couple no's there. So that means that we're either born with it or not. And praise and encouragement has a lot to do with it. So let me see if I have time for this video here.
I think she studied resiliency and as well as grit.
Yeah, grit. Yep. Let's see, I got a few minutes left. Let me minimize this for a second. Yes. So I will, oops, wrong button. Okay, since there's a lot of teachers in the room, let's go with this video. It's amazing. Try that again.
So check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really easy non-verbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of 2 ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, wow, great job, you must be really smart at this. Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, wow, great job, you must have worked really hard at this. Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible. So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the 2 groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first and you will surely do well on it. Now the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happens.
The child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented, That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talents. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with, so teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth. I think this is a pretty easy fix.
So that praise is that fixed mindset. You're praising their intelligence or their ability. Wow, you're great, you're awesome, you're fast, you're smart, you're pretty, rather than praise the effort. Look how hard you worked. You're really giving it your all. I've never seen you give up on anything. You may not have gotten where you wanted to be, but look how far you are from last week. You're really improving. That's that growth mindset. So this one here is that reframing. Remember that reframing I talked about in some past trainings where we have to change the way we think. Instead of I'm not good at this, what am I missing? Right? I'm awesome at this. I'm on the right track. So instead of looking at the outcome, the fixed mindset, we look at the growth mindset, which focuses on effort. Instead of saying good job on that test, you say, wow, you're really coming along. Your fractions are getting, your writing style is getting a little bit better, your punctuation, your sentence structure, you're really improving on grammar, and you point out the things that they're growing on instead of saying, great job, with a smiley face. Great job with a smiley face doesn't tell me anything except that I'm smart. So we have to get that great job and smiley face out because that creates that I'm good at this or I'm not. And to end, we don't have time to get into this, and I only have one slide on this anyways. This is that Thrivers. Her book is coming out this month. And I watched her webinar for an hour, and she really defined these 7 characteristics of strength. And that's to build that resiliency and that grit. Having that confidence, which is the self-esteem, self-worth. Having empathy, understanding that other people feel, so you're going to have a little bit more accountability for your behavior because you're worried and wondering how they feel. Self-control is that we have autonomy. We can control our choices and our behavior. Integrity, of course, curiosity. So wonderful book. I haven't read it yet because it's not out, but I really enjoyed her webinar. And there's some resources on self-care. the American Psychological Association. That was a great link. Active Minds, Mindfulness for Teachers. I thought that was cool for this group. And how to practice self-care worksheets. So folks, again, thank you for your time and interest. I hope some of these theories and information is applicable in your lives, and you could kind of, instead of intellectualizing it and thinking of people who need it, kind of look into yourself to see how can you use this to improve.
Joe, do you mind sending us that video you sent earlier, the one about the self-care? That was a really good one.
Yes, I will. I'll send it to Tony and then she can send it out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I was hoping to get the Carol Dweck one about,
Carol,
am I saying her name wrong? What is it?
yeah, Dweck.
Dweck.
Yeah.
I thought it was so powerful. Instead of telling kids you're so smart, you work so hard. And I do that, but I want to share that with other people. And I love that video clip.
Yeah, here, I was 40 years old in college and I put my heart into this 15-page term paper. And I got an A on it. And the professor said, great job, smiley face, A. And I was like, I felt ripped off. I'm like, yeah, I got an A, but what made it? I mean, she could have said, great theses, great topic sentence, you know, way to get your point across. I mean, she could have told me what made it a great job because I didn't know how to improve that paper. She just said, great job. And I felt ripped off because I don't know where to go from there. All right, folks. Thank you all. See you Thursday for some change and, what is the topic? Change and goal setting.
Thank you guys for coming. See you Thursday.
Thank you, Tony.
Sure.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll make sure that when Joe sends me the video clips and slides that I send it out to you all. That is such an excellent point. Just saying great job does not really validate a person as to why it's a great job and what about it, so that they can gauge and measure, and so that they can definitely stay on the path of great job,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, what made it a great job? How can I improve on what I did right? Because I have no idea what I did right, except you approved it.
Sure. Or if not even improving, how can I identify it so that I know that I'm not leaving great job
Yeah.
into, you know, the negative area, you know. That's very wow, profound. I never, and you never really consider that a person is looking for that. But no sooner than you pointed that out, it was like, you know what, he's right, because I do want to know specifically, you know.
Yeah.
So I you know, I'm always asking, you know, whatever, go in depth, so that I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember, you know, growing up, you had parents that said, you know, just do what I say, because I say do it.
Sure.
And while you comply, I've always said, if I had an understanding as to why I'm doing it this way, I can appreciate what I'm doing more, because now I'm in full knowledge, you know, as opposing to I'm doing it because you told me to, you know.
Yeah.
That's rather hollow, you know.
Yeah, that really demeans the child, and it takes the child out of that relationship, that they're an object. Do what I say and do what I tell you. And if you're good, I'll tell you you're good. If you're bad, I'll tell you you're bad. And that child's just an object instead of treating them as a valuable contributing member of that family. These are the rules, and these are why I need you to follow them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it is important that you give people understanding.
Yeah.
It is in that that they're able to make sure they don't lose their way, you know? I don't know that I'm going off track if all you ever said was good job and, you know,
Yeah.
well, it looks similar to the last thing I did. So, you know.
Yeah, I like what you said. Rather than knowing how to improve it, it's just how I can repeat it just to
Sure,
maintain the good job. I don't even know what maintained that good job.
sure. You cannot make a great cake unless you have a recipe that you're following. You
Mm,
know, even if you've made the cake over and over and over hundreds of times, it still began with a recipe. And
yeah.
so every time you make it, you're producing the same product.
Yep.
Interesting. You come from a restaurant background. Which country club did you work at?
I worked for a few of them. I worked for Lockmore Country Club in Grosse Pointe. I worked for Grosse Pointe Hunt Club. And then I spent 22 years at Meadowbrook Country Club.
Oh, okay. I'm asking because in a former life, I was a chef.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
Absolutely.
very
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, look at you and me, come from the restaurant business and getting into education and helping others.
Isn't that something?
You know, I was wondering why you used that cake analogy. I knew there's something about you that was
Well,
familiar.
thanks, you guys. Great presentation as always. And I'll see you guys Thursday.
All right, Tony.
Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, bye,
Bye.
Caitlin. Bye, Macy, hiding behind the black screen. Can we get a sound out of Macy today?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Macy.
Who are you hiding from
I can
today?
show my face.
You didn't do your hair today.
Well, I put it in a ponytail. I just don't have very good lighting in here. It's really dark in here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, pleasure to see you.
You too. Great presentation, Joe. How are you?
Appreciate it. Great present. What made it great, Macy? I don't
Yes,
know what to focus on.
That's what we were talking about.
What made it great?
Exactly. I don't all of it. I don't know. It was
Yeah,
good.
it flowed. I think it flowed well and had a lot of good examples. And
Yes.
and I